The cameras weren't even supposed to be rolling. But when Jasmine stepped into that private event flashing a massive diamond ring, the kind that stops conversations mid-sentence, everything changed. Within seconds, whispers spread across the room like wildfire. Phones came out, eyes widened, and then someone asked the question no one was prepared to answer. Wait, who bought that? What happened next sent shockwaves through the entire circle. Because standing just feet away, frozen in disbelief, was Rasheeda. Fans are shocked at how fast the energy shifted. 1 minute it was a celebration, champagne popping, laughter echoing, and the next, you could feel the tension suffocating the room. Jasmine didn't just reveal a ring. She revealed a statement, a message, a challenge, and according to insiders, Rasheeda knew exactly what it meant. Sources say Kirk had been acting different for weeks. Late-night phone calls, sudden business meetings, unexplained absences, but Rasheeda stayed quiet until that ring sparkled under the lights. Emotions ran high, voices were raised, and before anyone could intervene, Rasheeda allegedly walked straight up to Jasmine and said 5 words that left the entire room speechless. Where did you get that? What followed was not just an argument, it was a confrontation years in the making. Accusations flew, secrets resurfaced, and Kirk? He found himself standing in the middle of 2 women, both demanding answers. Now insiders are saying the marriage is hanging by a thread. Was that ring just jewelry, or proof of betrayal? And when Rasheeda finally confronted Kirk face to face, the words exchanged may have changed everything forever. The air in the room shifted so fast it felt like someone had slammed a door on everyone's chest. Rasheeda didn't blink, she didn't smile, she didn't even breathe the way she normally does when she's trying to keep it cute for the cameras. She just stared at that ring sparkling under the chandelier lights like it was screaming her worst fears back at her. Jasmine tilted her hand ever so slightly, letting the diamond catch the light again. It wasn't subtle, it wasn't accidental, it was deliberate. You like it? Jasmine asked, her tone sugary but sharp underneath. Rasheeda's jaw tightened. I asked you a question. Where did you get that? The music in the background suddenly felt too loud. A few guests awkwardly stepped back. Someone whispered, this is about to get ugly, and fans are shocked at how quickly the celebration turned into a battlefield. Kirk, who had been laughing with a group near the bar just seconds earlier, froze when he realized every eye in the room had shifted to him. Because whether anyone said it out loud or not, they all knew why this mattered. Jasmine didn't answer right away. She just looked over at Kirk. And that look said everything. Rasheeda followed her gaze, slowly, deliberately, like she didn't want to believe what her instincts were screaming. Kirk, she said, her voice low now, dangerous? Is there something you want to tell me? Kirk ran a hand over his face. Come on, Rasheeda, not here, not here. Those 2 words hit harder than any confession could have. Not here? Rasheeda repeated, her voice rising. So there is something? Emotions ran high. Guests pretended to scroll on their phones while secretly recording. The family was left divided, with some friends moving closer to Rasheeda while others hovered protectively around Kirk. Jasmine finally spoke up. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm allowed to be happy. Rasheeda let out a short, humorless laugh. Happy? With what? With who? Again, Jasmine's eyes flicked toward Kirk. The silence was deafening. Kirk stepped forward. Can we just go somewhere private and talk about this? No, Rasheeda shot back immediately. We've been talking in private for years. I want answers right now. Fans are shocked at how calm she looked despite the storm brewing behind her eyes. Because Rasheeda wasn't screaming, she wasn't crying, she was calculating. Did you buy that ring? She asked Kirk directly. Kirk hesitated, and that hesitation was louder than a yes. Jasmine crossed her arms. Why does it matter who bought it? It matters, Rasheeda snapped, because if my husband bought it, then we have a problem. The word husband echoed through the room like a warning siren. Kirk exhaled heavily. It's not what you think. Then tell me what it is, Rasheeda demanded. He glanced at Jasmine again, and that was mistake number 2. Rasheeda's eyes widened slightly. Oh my god. Rasheeda, listen. No, you listen, she cut him off. I stood by you when everyone said I shouldn't. I defended you. I rebuilt with you. And you're standing here looking guilty over a ring? Jasmine rolled her eyes. He doesn't look guilty. He looks tired. The room gasped. Excuse me? Rasheeda said slowly. I'm just saying, Jasmine continued, her voice growing bolder. Maybe he's tired of always being the villain. The villain? Rasheeda's composure cracked just slightly. You don't get to rewrite history. Kirk finally raised his voice. Enough. That single word silenced everyone. This is not how this was supposed to happen, he muttered, almost to himself. Rasheeda caught it. Not how what was supposed to happen. Jasmine's confidence flickered for just a second. Kirk, Rasheeda pressed, stepping closer to him. What did you promise her? The tension was suffocating. Someone near the back whispered, this is messy, and Messy didn't even begin to cover it. Kirk looked between the 2 women like a man trapped in his own decisions. I didn't promise her anything. So the ring just appeared? Rasheeda shot back. Jasmine let out a frustrated sigh. Why are you acting surprised? You know Kirk and I have history. History? Rasheeda repeated, incredulous. History doesn't come with diamonds that size. Emotions ran high as voices overlapped. Maybe you should ask him what he told me, Jasmine added, her tone suddenly colder. Rasheeda turned back to Kirk. What did you tell her? Kirk's silence stretched too long. Did you tell her you were leaving me? Rasheeda asked. The entire room seemed to lean in. No, Kirk said quickly. I never said that. Jasmine's face changed. You didn't? She asked softly, but the softness carried an edge. Kirk swallowed. I said we were going through things. Rasheeda shook her head slowly. So you were confiding in her now? About our marriage? It wasn't like that, he insisted. Then what was it like? Rasheeda demanded. Jasmine stepped forward. He said he felt alone. That one sentence cut deep. Rasheeda blinked, visibly hurt for the first time. Alone? Kirk looked panicked. I didn't mean it like that. Then how did you mean it? Rasheeda asked, her voice trembling despite her effort to stay composed. You've been focused on your businesses, on everything else, Kirk said defensively. Sometimes I felt like I didn't matter. Fans are shocked at this unexpected twist. Because now it wasn't just about a ring. It was about years of unresolved tension bubbling to the surface. Rasheeda stared at him like she didn't recognize the man in front of her. So instead of talking to me, you went to her? I listened, Jasmine interjected. That's all. You listened? Rasheeda snapped. And he rewarded you with that? He didn't buy it, Kirk shouted suddenly. The room fell silent again. Rasheeda's eyes narrowed. Then who did? Jasmine hesitated. And in that hesitation, everything shifted again. I bought it myself, Jasmine finally said. The statement hung in the air. Rasheeda looked unconvinced. With what money? Jasmine's lips pressed into a thin line. That's not your concern. It becomes my concern when my husband is involved, Rasheeda replied sharply. Kirk rubbed his temples. This is getting out of control. No, Rasheeda said firmly. What's out of control is the lies. She stepped even closer to him, lowering her voice so only he could hear, but the microphones caught every word. Look at me and tell me you have nothing to do with that ring. Kirk met her eyes. And for a split second, guilt flashed across his face. That was all Rasheeda needed. She stepped back as if physically pushed. Wow. The disappointment in her voice was heavier than any scream. Jasmine's expression shifted from defensive to almost triumphant. I think you two need to figure out what you really are, she said coolly. Rasheeda didn't look at her. She couldn't. Her focus was locked on Kirk. Did you give her money? She asked quietly. Kirk didn't answer. And in that silence, the whispers started again. He did. This is bad. Is this the end? Fans are shocked as the realization begins to sink in. Because this wasn't just about infidelity rumors. This was about loyalty, about respect, about whether this marriage was ever fully repaired. Rasheeda straightened her shoulders, forcing herself to stay composed. We're leaving, she said to Kirk. He hesitated. Now, she added. Jasmine let out a small laugh. Running away doesn't change the truth. Rasheeda finally turned to her. Her eyes were no longer hurt. They were ice cold. The truth? She said. Trust me, the truth is just getting started. And as Rasheeda walked toward the exit, Kirk trailing behind her under the weight of 100 staring eyes, one thing was painfully clear. This confrontation was far from over. This confrontation was far from over. The moment the doors closed behind them, the noise of the party faded, but the tension between Rasheeda and Kirk only grew louder. The parking lot lights flickered above them, casting harsh shadows across their faces. No cameras were officially scheduled to follow, but somehow, a production crew had already rushed outside. Because when drama explodes like that, no one wants to miss a second. Rasheeda stopped walking halfway to the car. Don't take another step, she said without turning around. Kirk froze. You embarrassed me, she continued, her voice steady but shaking underneath. In front of everybody. Rasheeda, I told you, I didn't buy that ring. But you gave her money. It wasn't a question this time. Kirk hesitated again, and that hesitation was gasoline on a fire already raging. I helped her out, he admitted quietly. It wasn't for a ring. Rasheeda spun around. Then what was it for? She needed support. Rasheeda let out a bitter laugh. Support? That's what you call it now? Emotions ran high as Kirk tried to step closer, but she held her hand up. Don't, she warned. Just don't. Inside, guests were still buzzing. Phones were lighting up with messages. Fans are shocked as clips of the confrontation started circulating within minutes. Social media was already divided. Some were defending Rasheeda, calling her strong and patient. Others were questioning Kirk's loyalty all over again. And then there were those who believed Jasmine knew exactly what she was doing. Back in the parking lot, Kirk lowered his voice. You're acting like I cheated again. Again? Rasheeda repeated sharply. So now we're counting? That's not what I meant. Then choose your words carefully. The silence between them felt heavier than ever. Did you tell her you felt alone? Rasheeda asked suddenly. Kirk exhaled. I was venting. To the woman who already caused problems in our marriage? It wasn't like that. Then what was it like, Kirk? She demanded, stepping closer now. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like history repeating itself. Kirk's frustration started to boil over. You're never home, Rasheeda. You're always building, expanding, planning the next move. Sometimes I feel like I'm just part of the background. That one sentence cut deep again. Rasheeda blinked rapidly, refusing to let tears fall. So instead of stepping up, you stepped out emotionally. I didn't step out. You stepped somewhere, she shot back. Inside the venue, Jasmine wasn't done. She was surrounded by a small circle of onlookers, and her confidence had returned. I didn't steal anyone's husband, she said loudly enough for multiple phones to capture. If there's a problem in their marriage, that's between them. The family was left divided. Some guests shook their heads, saying Jasmine was stirring the pot. Others whispered that Kirk wouldn't have given her anything if there weren't unresolved feelings involved. One friend leaned toward Jasmine. Did he really not buy it? Jasmine smirked slightly. I said what I said. Back outside, Rasheeda's phone buzzed repeatedly. She ignored it. Answer me this, she said to Kirk. If I hadn't seen that ring tonight, would you have told me about the money? Kirk looked away. And that was answer enough. Wow, she whispered. I was going to, he insisted weakly. When? She challenged. After she upgraded to a bracelet too? Kirk ran his hands through his hair. You're twisting it. No, Kirk, I'm finally untwisting it. Emotions ran high as the reality of the situation settled between them. This wasn't just about Jasmine. This was about trust eroding slowly over time. Did you meet up with her alone? Rasheeda asked. Kirk hesitated again. I need you to tell me the truth, she pressed. Once, he admitted. We met for coffee. Rasheeda stared at him, stunned. And you thought that was okay? It was just a conversation. About how lonely you are. About how complicated things have been. Rasheeda stepped back as if the ground beneath her had shifted. You had options. You could have talked to me. You could have gone to therapy. You could have called a friend. But you chose her. Kirk's voice dropped. I didn't think it would turn into this. It always turns into this, she replied quietly. Inside, Jasmine's phone buzzed. She glanced down and her expression changed slightly. What? One of her friends asked. Nothing, Jasmine said quickly, but her smile faded for a split second. Because a new twist was quietly unfolding. Outside, Rasheeda's composure finally cracked just a little. Do you love her? She asked suddenly. Kirk's head snapped up. No. Do you care about her? He paused too long. Kirk, I care about people, he said carefully. That's not what I asked. He closed his eyes briefly. I don't want to hurt you. Then stop giving other women pieces of what belongs in our marriage. That line hit hard. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Rasheeda did something unexpected. She took off her own wedding ring. Kirk's eyes widened. What are you doing? I'm trying to understand something, she said softly, staring at the ring in her palm. Because tonight, when I saw hers shine like that, I realized I don't know what this even means anymore. Don't do this, Kirk pleaded. Don't do what? React to disrespect? You're overreacting. Overreacting? She repeated, disbelief flooding her voice. You financially supported a woman who has already disrupted our marriage, met her in private, vented about our problems, and didn't tell me. And I'm overreacting? Fans are shocked as this explosive exchange unfolds. Because this isn't just reality TV drama anymore. This is a marriage at a breaking point. I never stopped choosing you, Kirk said desperately. Choosing me would have meant boundaries, Rasheeda replied. Inside the venue, Jasmine suddenly excused herself and headed toward the exit. Where are you going? Someone asked. Fresh air, she replied. But as she stepped outside and spotted Rasheeda holding her ring in her hand, the tension skyrocketed again. So this is how it ends? Jasmine called out. Rasheeda slowly turned. Ends? She echoed. You making a scene, him apologizing, and everyone pretending like I'm the villain. You inserted yourself into my marriage, Rasheeda said coldly. I didn't insert anything, Jasmine shot back. He came to me. Kirk stepped between them. Stop. No, Rasheeda said firmly. Let her talk. Jasmine folded her arms. You act like you're so secure, but if your marriage was solid, my ring wouldn't bother you. The words landed like a slap. The family was left divided yet again. Even the crew looked stunned. Rasheeda's eyes darkened. You think this is about insecurity? It's about respect. Respect goes both ways, Jasmine replied. So does loyalty, Rasheeda shot back. Kirk looked overwhelmed, caught between two women who were no longer holding back. I didn't expect tonight to go like this, he muttered. What did you expect? Rasheeda asked sharply. For me to smile and clap? Jasmine glanced at Kirk. You said she'd understand. The air froze. Rasheeda slowly turned her head toward him. You said what? Kirk's face drained of color. I never said that, he stammered. Jasmine's expression hardened. Don't lie now. And just like that, another crack split through the fragile foundation of their marriage. And just like that, another crack split through the fragile foundation of their marriage. Rasheeda didn't yell. She didn't lunge. She didn't even blink. She just stared at Kirk like she was seeing him for the first time. You told her I would understand? She asked slowly. Kirk shook his head quickly. That's not what I meant. Jasmine let out a sharp laugh. Oh, so now I'm making things up? You're twisting it, Kirk snapped. Then explain it, Rasheeda demanded. Right now. The parking lot had turned into a stage. Security stood nearby pretending not to listen. Producers whispered into headsets. Fans are shocked as the confrontation escalated beyond anything anyone expected. Kirk swallowed hard. I said that you're strong. That you've handled worse. Rasheeda's eyes widened in disbelief. So you used my strength as an excuse to disrespect me? That's not fair, he argued. Fair? She repeated. Was it fair when you met her for coffee and didn't tell me? Was it fair when you sent her money and kept it quiet? Was it fair when she walked in here flashing a ring like she won something? Jasmine stepped forward. I didn't win anything. Then why does it look like you're celebrating? Rasheeda shot back. Emotions ran high as Jasmine's composure started to crack. Because I'm tired of being treated like I'm beneath you, Jasmine said, her voice rising. I'm not the villain in your marriage story. I didn't make vows with you. He did. The family was left divided yet again. Even Kirk seemed stunned by Jasmine's boldness. Don't put this all on me, he said to her. I'm not, Jasmine replied. I'm just not taking the blame for your choices anymore. That sentence hung heavy in the air. Rasheeda turned to Kirk. Is that true? Have you been telling her she's misunderstood? That I'm the one who doesn't see you? Kirk looked trapped. I vented. That's it. About what? Rasheeda pressed. About feeling unappreciated. Those words sliced deep. Unappreciated? Rasheeda echoed softly. After everything we rebuilt? Kirk's frustration exploded. Yes, sometimes. The shout startled everyone. Sometimes I feel like I'm just part of your empire, he continued. Like I'm not your partner, just another business decision. Rasheeda's hurt morphed into anger. So your solution was to confide in her? To fund her? To blur lines that should have never existed? Jasmine crossed her arms. He didn't blur anything alone. So you admit you knew exactly what you were doing, Rasheeda fired back. I knew he needed someone to listen, Jasmine said. And I listened. With a diamond on your finger? Rasheeda snapped. That ring has nothing to do with him. Then why mention him every time someone asks about it? Rasheeda challenged. Jasmine hesitated, and that hesitation was louder than any confession. Fans are shocked as another twist begins to unfold. Because suddenly, it wasn't just about the money. It was about perception, about who benefited from the illusion of connection. Who else knows about this? Rasheeda asked Kirk suddenly. Knows about what? About the money, about the coffee, about you telling her I'd understand. Kirk looked down. Does your family know? She pressed. He didn't answer. Wow, she whispered again. Just then, Rasheeda's phone buzzed nonstop. She finally glanced at the screen. Notifications were pouring in. Clips from inside had already gone viral. Hashtags were trending. Fans are shocked, commentators were dissecting every frame, and the internet was officially in meltdown mode. It's everywhere, she said quietly. Kirk closed his eyes. This is a nightmare. No, Rasheeda corrected him. This is consequences. Jasmine looked uneasy now. The attention she seemed comfortable with inside suddenly felt heavier outside. I didn't ask for this to blow up, she muttered. You walked into a public event wearing that ring, Rasheeda replied coldly. What did you expect? I expected honesty, Jasmine shot back. I expected him to stop pretending. Kirk's head snapped toward her. Pretending what? Pretending like you don't feel something, she said bluntly. The air left the space. Rasheeda stared at Kirk. Do you? No, he said immediately, but his voice lacked conviction. Jasmine's eyes filled with frustration. Stop lying to her. And stop lying to yourself. Emotions ran high as Kirk's carefully constructed defenses began to crumble. I care about you, he admitted to Jasmine, but that doesn't mean I want to be with you. Rasheeda's heart visibly sank. Care about her? She repeated, her voice breaking for the first time. You care about her? I care about people, he said again weakly. Not like this, Rasheeda whispered. The family was left divided as producers exchanged glances. This wasn't surface drama anymore. This was raw. Jasmine wiped at her eye angrily. You told me you felt connected to me. Kirk looked panicked. I said we related. You said it was easy with me, Jasmine shot back. Rasheeda inhaled sharply. Easy. I didn't mean it like that, Kirk insisted. How did you mean it? Both women demanded at the same time. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Rasheeda did something unexpected. She stepped toward Jasmine instead of Kirk. Look at me, she said calmly. Did he ever tell you he was leaving me? Jasmine hesitated. Answer me, Rasheeda pressed. Not directly, Jasmine admitted. But he said he didn't know how much longer he could keep pretending. Rasheeda turned slowly toward Kirk. Pretending, she repeated. Kirk shook his head. I meant pretending everything was perfect. So our marriage is a performance to you? She asked. That's not what I said. It's what you implied. Fans are shocked as the emotional intensity reaches another level. Because now the question isn't just about infidelity. It's about emotional betrayal. Did you ever touch her? Rasheeda asked suddenly. The question landed like thunder. Kirk looked stunned. No, don't lie, Jasmine warned quietly. Rasheeda's head snapped toward her. What does that mean? Jasmine bit her lip. What does that mean? Rasheeda repeated louder. It was nothing, Kirk rushed out. A hug. A hug? Rasheeda echoed. It was emotional, Jasmine admitted softly. Emotional? Rasheeda repeated, disbelief flooding her face. He was upset, Jasmine said. I comforted him. Rasheeda laughed bitterly. You comforted my husband. Because he needed it. From you? From someone who listened. The shouting overlapped. Security stepped closer. Kirk held his head. This is spiraling. It spiraled the moment you opened that door, Rasheeda replied sharply. Then another twist hit. One of Rasheeda's closest friends rushed outside, phone in hand. You need to see this, she said urgently. Rasheeda took the phone. It was a photo. Kirk and Jasmine, at a cafe, closer than they should have been. His hand resting suspiciously near hers. When was this? Rasheeda asked quietly. Kirk's face drained. Last month, her friend answered. You said once, Rasheeda whispered. Kirk hesitated. How many times? She demanded. 3, he admitted finally. The air shattered. Fans are shocked as the lie unravels completely. 3 times, Rasheeda repeated. You lied to my face. I didn't want to hurt you. You didn't want to get caught, she corrected. Jasmine looked stunned too. You told me she knew we were talking. Rasheeda's head whipped toward her. You said what? Kirk's silence said everything. You told her I knew? Rasheeda's voice shook with fury. I thought you'd find out eventually, he muttered. So you built a whole fantasy where everyone was aware except me? Emotions ran high as Rasheeda stepped back, overwhelmed. This is bigger than a ring, she said quietly. This is deception. Jasmine's bravado finally crumbled. I didn't know he was lying to both of us. Rasheeda looked at her coldly. Now you know. Kirk reached for Rasheeda's hand. Please, we can fix this. She pulled away instantly. Fix what? She asked. The fact that you confided in her? Funded her? Met her multiple times? Lied to me? Told her I'd understand? Kirk had no answer. The family was left divided. The crew stood frozen. The world online was exploding. Rasheeda slid her wedding ring back onto her finger slowly, almost symbolically. I'm not making any decisions tonight, she said finally. Because right now, I'm too angry. Kirk looked relieved for half a second. But don't mistake my pause for forgiveness, she added coldly. Jasmine looked between them, realizing the game had changed. So what now? She asked quietly. Rasheeda looked at her with icy calm. Now, she replied, now we let the truth breathe. And as the night stretched on under harsh parking lot lights, one thing was certain. This marriage wasn't just on the line anymore. It was hanging by a thread that could snap at any second. It was hanging by a thread that could snap at any second. For a long moment, no one moved. The only sound was the distant hum of traffic and the constant vibration of phones buzzing with notifications. Rasheeda stood there, composed but visibly shaken, while Kirk looked like a man realizing the ground beneath him was no longer solid. I need space, Rasheeda finally said. Don't walk away from me, Kirk replied quickly, panic creeping into his voice. You already walked away, she shot back. Just not physically. That line cut deep. Even Jasmine flinched. Fans are shocked as the emotional weight of that statement spread across social media in real time. Comments poured in. Some blamed Kirk entirely. Others accused Jasmine of deliberately provoking the situation. And a small but loud group questioned whether Rasheeda would finally reach her breaking point. Rasheeda turned to her friend. Take me home. Kirk stepped forward. We came together. And we're leaving separately, she replied coldly. The family was left divided as producers debated whether to intervene or let the raw moment unfold naturally. Jasmine stood frozen, the confidence she wore earlier now replaced with uncertainty. This isn't what I wanted, Jasmine muttered. Rasheeda stopped walking but didn't turn around. Then what did you want? Jasmine hesitated. Clarity. Rasheeda slowly faced her again. Clarity would have been you setting boundaries the first time he complained about his marriage. Jasmine swallowed hard. He made it sound like you were done. Kirk's head snapped toward her. I never said that. You implied it, Jasmine shot back. You said you felt single. Rasheeda's breath caught. You felt single? Kirk's face paled. I meant emotionally disconnected. That's not how she heard it, Rasheeda said sharply. Emotions ran high as the final layers of truth peeled back. Did you ever tell her you loved her? Rasheeda asked quietly. No, Kirk answered immediately. Jasmine looked down, and that silence was loud. Rasheeda noticed. Jasmine. Jasmine's eyes filled with conflicted emotion. He didn't say the word. But, Rasheeda pressed. But he said he felt something he couldn't explain. The air left Kirk's lungs. You're twisting my words again, he insisted. Am I? Jasmine fired back. Or are you finally being forced to hear them? The tension was suffocating. Rasheeda's voice dropped to almost a whisper. So while I was defending you publicly, rebuilding trust, trying to move forward, you were building something else privately. It wasn't like that, Kirk said weakly. Stop saying that, she snapped. Because clearly it was like that. Fans are shocked at how composed Rasheeda remained despite the emotional earthquake happening right in front of her. Here's what hurts the most, she continued. It's not even the ring. It's the secrecy. It's the lies. It's you creating an emotional escape hatch instead of fixing what was broken at home. Kirk looked desperate. I was confused. Confused men don't meet up 3 times, she replied. The family was left divided as one of Kirk's relatives, who had been watching quietly from a distance, finally stepped forward. This has gone too far, they said. Y'all need to handle this privately. Rasheeda nodded slightly. I agree. She looked at Kirk one last time. We're done talking tonight. Rasheeda, please. No, you've said enough. She got into the car with her friend, and as the door shut, Kirk stood there alone under the harsh lights, watching the vehicle pull away. Jasmine exhaled slowly. You told me she knew. Kirk rubbed his face. I didn't think it would blow up like this. It blew up because you lied, Jasmine said, her voice trembling now. Don't act innocent, he snapped. You knew what you were doing walking in there with that ring. Jasmine's eyes flashed. I walked in confident, not guilty. Confident about what? About not hiding anymore. Kirk stared at her. There was nothing to hide. Then why did you hide it? She shot back. That question silenced him again. Back at Rasheeda's house, the energy was heavy. The moment she stepped inside, she removed her heels and sank onto the couch. Her friend sat beside her. Are you okay? Her friend asked gently. Rasheeda stared straight ahead. I'm embarrassed. You shouldn't be. But I am, she admitted. Because I trusted him. Again. Emotions ran high as she finally allowed herself to feel the weight of it. What are you going to do? Her friend asked. Rasheeda shook her head. I don't know yet, but I'm not ignoring this. Meanwhile, Kirk drove aimlessly. His phone lit up with calls from family members, friends, even business partners. Fans are shocked as commentators debated whether this was the final straw. Headlines were already dramatic. Marriage on the brink. Ring reveal rocks relationship. The narrative was spiraling fast. Kirk finally pulled over and answered one call. What were you thinking? The voice on the other end demanded. It wasn't supposed to look like that, Kirk muttered. It didn't just look like that. It was like that. He hung up, frustrated. Back at Jasmine's place, she sat on her bed staring at the ring. Was this worth it? Her friend asked softly. Jasmine didn't answer right away. I didn't want to hurt her, she said finally. But I also didn't want to keep pretending like I didn't matter. Do you love him? Her friend asked. Jasmine hesitated. I care about him, she admitted. But I don't know if he's brave enough to choose anything. The next morning, the fallout intensified. Rasheeda woke up to dozens of missed calls and thousands of messages. Fans are shocked, divided, emotional. Some begged her to leave. Others urged her to fight for her marriage. Kirk showed up at the house unannounced. She saw him through the window. For a moment, she considered not opening the door. But she did. You have 5 minutes, she said coldly. He stepped inside cautiously. I messed up, he began. That's an understatement. I never meant to hurt you. Intent doesn't erase impact. He looked at her, eyes filled with regret. I was feeling disconnected. Instead of fixing it, I looked for comfort. With her. Yes. The honesty was painful. Did you ever plan to leave me? She asked quietly. No. Then why make her think you might? He hesitated. Because I didn't want to close the door. That confession hit harder than anything else. You kept her as an option, Rasheeda said, stunned. I didn't think of it like that. But that's what it was. Emotions ran high again as the full truth settled between them. I love you, Kirk said desperately. Love isn't enough if there's no respect, she replied. Tell me what to do. Be honest, she said firmly. For once. He nodded. I liked the attention. I liked feeling understood without being challenged. It was easy. There was that word again. Easy, Rasheeda repeated bitterly. Marriage isn't easy. I know that. Do you? He fell silent. The family was left divided as relatives continued calling, offering opinions, taking sides. Even their children were starting to hear whispers. This affects more than just us, Rasheeda said softly. I know. Then act like it. Another twist came when Jasmine texted Kirk. We need to talk. Rasheeda saw the message light up his screen. Are you going to answer? She asked calmly. He looked at her. No, he said, and turned the phone face down. That gesture meant something. But was it enough? You can't fix this in one morning, Rasheeda said. I'll do whatever it takes. She studied him carefully. Then it starts with cutting off anything that blurs boundaries. Completely. He nodded slowly. And therapy, she added. Okay. And transparency. Okay. She inhaled deeply. Because right now, Kirk, this marriage is hanging by a thread. He swallowed hard. And if it snaps, she continued, it won't be because of a ring. It'll be because of repeated choices. The weight of that truth sat heavy between them. Outside, the world kept talking. Fans are shocked. Debates raged. The narrative was unpredictable. Inside, two people stood at a crossroads. Would this be the moment they rebuilt stronger than before? Or the moment everything finally fell apart? Because sometimes, it's not the scandal that destroys a marriage. It's the pattern. And right now, that pattern was impossible to ignore. The room felt smaller than it had ever felt before. The walls that once held years of memories now seemed like silent witnesses to a truth that could no longer be softened or spun. Rasheeda stood near the window, arms folded, staring out but not really seeing anything. Kirk stood a few feet away, unsure if stepping closer would help or make things worse. Say it, Rasheeda said quietly. Kirk frowned. Say what? Say that you crossed a line. He hesitated, and even that hesitation felt exhausting. I crossed a line, he finally admitted. Emotionally, he repeated. Multiple times. He swallowed. Multiple times. Emotions ran high, but this time the energy wasn't explosive. It was heavy, raw, stripped down. You didn't just vent, Rasheeda continued. You created a space where another woman felt secure enough to believe she had a place in your future. Kirk rubbed his hands together nervously. I didn't promise her a future. You didn't shut the door either. That truth hung between them like smoke. Fans are shocked at how calm Rasheeda had become. Because this wasn't the fiery confrontation from the night before. This was clarity, and clarity can be colder than anger. Why now? She asked suddenly. What do you mean? Why did she feel bold enough to reveal that ring publicly? Kirk's face tightened. I don't know. You do, Rasheeda said firmly. Think. He closed his eyes briefly. We argued last week. About what? About where this was going. Rasheeda's expression hardened. So there was a this. Not like that, he rushed to say. Stop minimizing it, she snapped. Call it what it was. He looked defeated. It was inappropriate. And selfish. She nodded slowly. Keep going. And unfair to you. There it was. The family was left divided as extended relatives began texting both of them separately. Some told Rasheeda she deserved better. Others urged her not to throw away years over what they called a mistake. But this didn't feel like one mistake. It felt layered. Did you ever tell her you'd leave if things didn't change? Rasheeda asked. Kirk hesitated again. Answer carefully, she warned. I said I didn't know how long I could keep feeling disconnected. Rasheeda laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. That's not careful. That's suggestive. I was frustrated. So you planted doubt in two women instead of facing your own issues. He had no defense left. Meanwhile, across town, Jasmine sat in her living room staring at her phone. Her notifications were relentless. Fans are shocked. Some praised her for exposing the truth. Others dragged her for stepping into someone else's marriage again. Her friend sat across from her. Are you going to talk to him? Jasmine exhaled slowly. I don't know if there's anything left to say. Do you feel used? Her friend asked. Jasmine's silence answered that question. Back at the house, Rasheeda walked past Kirk and sat down at the dining table. I need to ask you something, and I need the real answer, she said. Okay, if I hadn't found out like this, how far would it have gone? Kirk's face went pale. I don't know, he admitted. That was the most honest thing he'd said all morning. That's what scares me, she replied. Emotions ran high as the weight of potential betrayal felt even heavier than confirmed facts. Did you ever think about what this would do to our family? She continued. I wasn't thinking clearly. No, she corrected. You were thinking selfishly. He nodded slowly. Our kids will see this, she said quietly. They'll read headlines. They'll hear whispers. Kirk looked crushed. I never wanted that. Intent, she reminded him again, doesn't erase impact. There was a long pause. Do you want to stay married? She asked finally. Yes, he answered without hesitation. Why? The question caught him off guard. Because I love you. That's not enough, she said firmly. Why do you want to stay married? He struggled for words. Because we built something real. Because despite everything, you're my partner. Because when things get hard, I don't actually want to replace you. I want to fix it. She studied him carefully. Then understand this, she said. If I choose to stay, it won't be because I'm afraid to leave. It'll be because I see change. You will, he promised. Words are cheap right now. He nodded. At that exact moment, the doorbell rang. Both of them froze. Are you expecting someone? Kirk asked. Rasheeda shook her head. She walked to the door and opened it. Jasmine stood there. The air shifted instantly. Kirk's eyes widened. What are you doing here? Jasmine looked at Rasheeda, not him. I need to clear something up. Emotions ran high again as the unexpected face-off resumed. This isn't a good time, Kirk muttered. It's the perfect time, Jasmine replied. Rasheeda stepped aside. Come in. Kirk looked stunned. The family was left divided in real time as cameras, tipped off by someone, began gathering outside the house. Jasmine walked in slowly, her confidence different this time. Less sharp, more resolved. I'm not here to fight, she said. Then why are you here? Rasheeda asked calmly. Because I don't want this narrative twisted. Kirk scoffed. What narrative? Jasmine ignored him. I never thought he was fully leaving you. But he made it sound like he was emotionally done. Rasheeda glanced at Kirk. Did you? He looked trapped again. I said I felt disconnected. You said you felt like you were already single, Jasmine corrected. Rasheeda inhaled slowly. Did you tell her you loved her? She asked again. No, Kirk insisted. Jasmine shook her head. He didn't say the word. But he said he felt something strong. Stop, Kirk snapped. You're exaggerating. Am I? Jasmine challenged. Or are you just uncomfortable hearing it out loud? Fans are shocked as the triangle reached another explosive peak. I need to ask you directly, Rasheeda said to Jasmine. Did you believe you were building a future with him? Jasmine hesitated. Be honest, Rasheeda urged. I believed there was a possibility, Jasmine admitted. Kirk closed his eyes in frustration. A possibility? Rasheeda repeated softly. Because he didn't close the door, Jasmine replied. And there it was again. Rasheeda looked at Kirk with a mixture of anger and heartbreak. You kept her as an option. I was confused, he whispered. Confused men make choices, she replied. And you made several. The tension was suffocating. I didn't come here to compete, Jasmine said suddenly. I came here to say I'm stepping out. Both of them looked at her. What does that mean? Kirk asked. It means I'm done being the in-between, Jasmine said firmly. If you want your marriage, fight for it. If you don't, be honest. But don't keep me in limbo. The statement stunned the room. The family was left divided once more. Some would call Jasmine manipulative. Others would call her self-aware. Rasheeda studied her carefully. So you're walking away? Yes, Jasmine said, because I deserve clarity too. She slipped the ring off her finger and placed it on the table. Kirk stared at it in shock. That ring was never about money, Jasmine said quietly. It was about whether he was brave enough to choose. She looked at Rasheeda. I'm sorry for my part in this. Then she looked at Kirk. Figure out what you actually want. And just like that, she walked out. The door closed behind her. Silence filled the house. Kirk stared at the ring on the table like it was a symbol of everything that had nearly destroyed his life. Rasheeda looked at it too. This is what almost cost you everything, she said softly. Kirk nodded. Emotions ran high, but this time there were no raised voices. Just truth. You have one chance, Rasheeda said finally. Kirk looked up. One, she repeated, to prove that this marriage is not just convenient, not just familiar, but intentional. He nodded slowly. I'll prove it. She didn't smile. Because if I ever feel like an option again, she added, there won't be another conversation. The weight of that promise settled deeply. Outside, fans are shocked as news spreads that Jasmine returned the ring. Social media exploded again, divided and emotional. Inside the house, two people stood at a fragile beginning. Not a clean slate, not a fairy tale reconciliation, but a crossroads. And whether this marriage would survive wouldn't depend on dramatic speeches or viral moments. It would depend on consistent choices. Because sometimes the biggest confrontation isn't loud. It's quiet. And this quiet was louder than anything that had happened the night before. And this quiet was louder than anything that had happened the night before. For several long seconds, neither of them touched the ring sitting on the table. It glittered under the light, almost mocking the chaos it had caused. Rasheeda finally reached forward, not to claim it, but to slide it across the table toward Kirk. That's yours to deal with, she said calmly. Kirk looked at the ring like it burned. I don't want it. It's not about wanting, she replied. It's about responsibility. Emotions ran high, but this time the energy was restrained, deliberate. Rasheeda wasn't yelling anymore. She was thinking. And that scared Kirk more than her anger ever could. What are you thinking right now? He asked quietly. I'm thinking about patterns, she answered without hesitation. I'm thinking about how many times I've had to be strong for both of us. Kirk swallowed hard. I'm thinking about how easy it was for you to create a separate emotional lane instead of repairing the one we were already in, she continued. I know, he said softly. I messed up. You didn't just mess up, she corrected. You risked everything. The family was left divided as more relatives began reaching out. Some wanted to come over immediately. Others urged privacy. The world outside was buzzing louder than ever. Fans are shocked. Commentators are dissecting every word. But inside this house, it was just two people facing the truth. I need transparency, Rasheeda said firmly. Complete transparency. You have it, Kirk replied quickly. Starting now, she clarified. Phone, messages, finances, no secrets. He nodded. Okay. And therapy isn't optional. I'll schedule it. Today, he agreed. She studied him carefully, searching for hesitation. For deflection. For the smallest sign that he was only saying what she wanted to hear. Why didn't you stop sooner? She asked suddenly. Kirk hesitated. Be honest, she urged. Because it felt good to feel wanted, he admitted quietly. That answer hurt more than anything else. So I don't make you feel wanted? She asked, her voice tight. You do, he insisted. But sometimes it feels different. We're busy. We're stressed. It's routine. So you confused novelty with connection, she said. He didn't argue. Do you know how insulting that is? She continued. That years of loyalty can be shaken by someone new listening to you complain? I wasn't trying to replace you. You were supplementing, she shot back. And that's just as dangerous. Emotions ran high again, but Rasheeda didn't lose control. She was precise, calculated. I need you to understand something, she said. I am not competing with anyone for my own husband. You shouldn't have to, Kirk said quickly. Exactly. There was a long pause. I'm embarrassed, Kirk admitted finally. Not because we got caught, but because I see how weak it was. That was new. Rasheeda's expression shifted slightly. Say that again. It was weak, he repeated. Instead of confronting my dissatisfaction directly, I hid inattention. The honesty felt different this time. Less defensive, more self-aware. Outside, reporters had begun circling the story. Fans are shocked at Jasmine's dramatic exit and the returned ring. Social media was split. Some claimed Jasmine was finally taking accountability. Others believed it was strategic. The family was left divided in comment sections everywhere. Inside the house, Rasheeda stood up and began pacing slowly. This isn't just about trust, she said. It's about identity. Who we are, what we represent. I know. Do you? She asked sharply. Because it looked like you forgot. Kirk's voice lowered. I lost perspective. Then find it, she said firmly. Another twist came when Kirk's phone buzzed again. He looked at it, then at Rasheeda. Who is it? She asked. He turned the screen toward her. Jasmine. A simple message. I meant what I said. I'm stepping out. Rasheeda stared at it for a moment. Are you going to respond? She asked calmly. Kirk hesitated. This is the moment, Rasheeda said quietly. Not later. Not after therapy. Now. He nodded slowly and typed. I'm choosing my marriage. Please respect that. He hit send. The message felt small, but symbolic. Rasheeda watched his face carefully. Delete the thread. He did. Block the number. He paused for half a second. That half second said everything. Block it, she repeated. He blocked it. Emotions ran high again, but this time the power dynamic shifted. Rasheeda wasn't pleading. She was setting boundaries. Understand something, she said. This isn't about controlling you. It's about protecting what you almost destroyed. I understand. Do you? She asked again. He nodded firmly. Meanwhile, across town, Jasmine stared at her phone as the message came through. I'm choosing my marriage. She read it twice. Her friend looked at her carefully. How do you feel? Jasmine exhaled slowly, relieved, and stupid. Why stupid? Because I let someone halfway in. Emotions ran high on her end too. She removed the last photo of Kirk from her phone. Not out of bitterness, but clarity. Are you okay? Her friend asked. I will be, Jasmine replied. I just won't be an option anymore. Back at the house, Rasheeda sat down again. There's one more thing, she said. Kirk looked up nervously. I need you to tell the truth publicly. His eyes widened slightly. Publicly? Yes. That's messy. It's already messy, she replied. But I won't carry the narrative alone. He swallowed hard. What do you want me to say? The truth, she said simply. That you crossed boundaries. That you take responsibility. That I wasn't crazy or insecure. Emotions ran high as Kirk realized this wasn't just about private repair. It was about public accountability. Are you sure? He asked. Very. The family was left divided as opinions flooded in about how this should be handled. Some believed airing it out would create more damage. Others insisted transparency was the only way forward. Kirk nodded slowly. I'll do it. Rasheeda leaned back, exhausted but steady. This doesn't fix it, she said. It starts the process. I know. Another long silence filled the space. Do you still love me? He asked quietly. She looked at him carefully. I do, she admitted. But love feels different when trust is shaken. He nodded, accepting that truth. I'm not promising forever right now, she continued. I'm promising effort, and watching. That's fair. And if I see the same pattern again, she warned softly, I won't hesitate. The weight of that sentence settled deeply. Outside, fans are shocked as rumors swirl about whether a separation announcement is coming. Speculation grows louder. The internet thrives on uncertainty. Inside, the uncertainty is real. What scared you the most last night? Kirk asked suddenly. Rasheeda thought for a moment. Not the ring, she said. Not even the lie. Then what? The realization that you might have been slowly detaching without telling me. He looked down. Detachment is quiet, she continued. It doesn't explode. It fades. And I refuse to fade in my own marriage. That statement was powerful. Kirk moved closer, cautiously this time. I don't want to detach. Then show up, she replied. Consistently. He nodded. For the first time since the confrontation began, the energy shifted slightly. Not back to comfort, but toward awareness. We have work to do, she said. I'm ready. Prove it. And as the day stretched on, the storm outside continued. Fans are shocked. Debates rage. Narratives twist. But inside this house, the real story isn't dramatic shouting or viral clips. It's choices. Small ones. Daily ones. Because the ring was never just about sparkle. It was about boundaries. About temptation. About whether familiarity would be taken for granted. The family was left divided, but one thing was undeniable. This marriage wasn't over. But it wasn't safe either. It was in recovery. And recovery isn't loud. It's fragile. It's uncomfortable. It's honest. And whether it survives won't depend on one dramatic confrontation. It will depend on whether Kirk truly understood that attention is cheap. But commitment is intentional. And for the first time in a long time, he finally looked like a man who realized that. And for the first time in a long time, he finally looked like a man who realized that. But realization and transformation are two very different things. The days that followed were tense, controlled, almost eerily polite. Kirk kept his word about therapy. Appointments were scheduled, calendars were rearranged, access was shared, passwords were exchanged without argument. On the surface, it looked like progress. But underneath, the damage was still raw. Rasheeda moved differently around him now. Not distant, not cold, just observant. She watched how quickly he responded to messages. She noticed when he seemed distracted. She paid attention to tone, timing, energy. Not because she wanted to live in suspicion, but because trust, once fractured, doesn't magically reset. Fans are shocked at how quiet things became publicly. No dramatic posts, no cryptic captions, just silence. And sometimes silence fuels more speculation than chaos ever could. One evening, about a week after the confrontation, they sat across from each other at the kitchen island. Be honest, Rasheeda said calmly. Do you miss her? Kirk looked startled. No, he answered quickly. She didn't react. I miss feeling uncomplicated, he admitted carefully. With her? With anyone, he clarified. Before everything got heavy. Rasheeda nodded slowly. Marriage gets heavy. I know. So does ego, she added. That landed. Emotions ran high, not in volume, but in weight. Do you feel resentful? She asked. Toward you? He frowned. Toward me, toward our structure, toward responsibility. He paused. Sometimes I feel overshadowed, he admitted. There it was again. Overshadowed, she repeated. So instead of stepping up, you sought validation. Yes. The honesty was becoming less defensive, more exposed. That's insecurity, she said plainly. He didn't argue. The family was left divided behind the scenes. Some relatives believed Rasheeda was being too calculated. Others believed she was finally protecting herself properly. But what no one saw was the private work, the uncomfortable conversations that stretched for hours. Another twist came 2 weeks later. A blog dropped a new rumor. Anonymous sources claim Kirk and Jasmine were seen together after the ring incident. The internet exploded again. Fans are shocked. Comment sections flooded. Speculation spiraled out of control. Rasheeda saw it immediately. She didn't yell. She walked into the room where Kirk was sitting. Were you with her? She asked evenly. His head snapped up. No. Think carefully. I haven't spoken to her. In any form? No. She studied his face. Swear on our family, she said quietly. He didn't hesitate. I swear. She held his gaze for a long moment. Okay, she replied, but the doubt lingered in the air like humidity before a storm. Later that night, Kirk confronted the rumor publicly. He recorded a short, controlled statement. I crossed emotional boundaries. I take responsibility, but I am committed to repairing my marriage. There is no ongoing relationship. The clip circulated fast. Fans are shocked at the directness. Some applauded the accountability, others called it damage control. Rasheeda watched the video privately. You sound sincere, she said. I am. Good, she replied, because if I find out you're not, this ends. Her tone wasn't dramatic. It was final. Meanwhile, across town, Jasmine was dealing with her own backlash. She had kept her word. No contact, no public digs, no subtle shade, but the narrative painted her as either manipulative or heartbroken. In reality, she felt both. One afternoon, unexpectedly, Rasheeda received a message request. From Jasmine. Not dramatic, not hostile, just one sentence. I meant what I said. I'm out. I hope you find clarity. Rasheeda stared at it for a long time. Then she surprised even herself. She replied, thank you. Stay out of it, and there won't be a problem. Direct. Clean. Final. When Kirk found out about the exchange, he looked uneasy. What did she say? Nothing that matters anymore, Rasheeda answered. And that was the truth. Because at this point, the real issue wasn't Jasmine. It was foundation. Therapy sessions began pulling at threads deeper than anyone expected. One evening, after a particularly intense session, Kirk sat quietly in the car. What did you learn? Rasheeda asked. That I avoid confrontation, he admitted. Clearly. That when I feel inadequate, I seek affirmation instead of growth. She nodded slowly. And that I've been measuring myself against you instead of beside you. That one was big. Emotions ran high again, not with anger, but realization. I never wanted you to feel beneath me, Rasheeda said quietly. I know, he replied. But sometimes I felt it anyway. That's not on me, she said firmly. That's internal. I know. And that was the shift. For the first time, he wasn't blaming circumstance. He wasn't blaming busyness. He wasn't blaming stress. He was looking inward. But trust rebuilds slower than insight. Another moment tested everything. Late one night, Rasheeda walked into the living room and saw Kirk quickly lock his phone. The movement was small, automatic, but loaded. The air changed instantly. Who was that? She asked calmly. No one, he said too quickly. Her expression hardened. Unlock it. He hesitated. That hesitation reopened wounds instantly. Unlock it, she repeated. He handed it over. She scrolled. Business emails. Family messages. Nothing suspicious. But the damage wasn't in the content. It was in the reflex. You see what that did? She asked quietly. I didn't think. Exactly. Emotions ran high again. Trust doesn't just require innocence, she said. It requires awareness. He nodded slowly. I'm still unlearning defensiveness. Do it faster, she replied. The family was left divided in private conversations about whether healing like this was sustainable. But something unexpected began happening. Kirk started initiating conversations. Not when caught, not when questioned, but proactively. I felt insecure today, he'd say. About what? About where I fit. And instead of running from the discomfort, he stayed in it. Rasheeda noticed. She didn't praise it loudly. But she noticed. One evening, months after the ring reveal, they attended another public event. The tension was subtle but present. Fans are shocked to see them arrive together. Cameras flashed. Questions were shouted. Are you okay? Is the marriage safe? Rasheeda didn't flinch. Kirk didn't either. Inside the event, whispers followed them. But this time, there was no ring reveal. No hidden glances. No explosive confrontation. Just two people standing side by side. And yet, the real test wasn't public. It was private. Later that night, as they sat at home, Rasheeda spoke softly. I'm still angry sometimes. I know, Kirk replied. Sometimes it hits randomly. I understand. Sometimes I imagine what would have happened if I didn't catch it. He didn't respond. Because there was no comforting answer to that. Are we going to make it? He asked quietly. She thought for a long moment. That depends, she said finally. On what? On whether you ever confuse attention with intimacy again. The weight of that statement was undeniable. Because that was the root. Not Jasmine, not the ring, not the blog rumors. Ego, insecurity, avoidance, and whether those patterns were truly broken. Fans are shocked months later when the narrative shifts from scandal to silence. No new drama, no new exposure, just consistency. But even consistency has to be maintained. One night, as they prepared for bed, Kirk spoke quietly in the dark. "Thank you for not leaving." Rasheeda paused. "Don't thank me yet," she said honestly. "I'm still deciding every day." And that was the real truth. Marriage isn't saved in one dramatic moment. It's rebuilt in small, repetitive choices. And while the world may have moved on to the next headline, inside this house, the work continued. Because the ring may have been removed. The messages may have been blocked. The statements may have been made. But the real confrontation wasn't with Jasmine. It was with weakness. And weakness doesn't disappear overnight. It gets managed, challenged, corrected, daily. The family was left divided for a while. Fans were shocked for a while. The internet raged for a while. But what remains after the noise fades? Character. And whether Kirk truly transformed or simply adapted to survive the scandal would only be revealed over time. Because sometimes the most dramatic battles aren't loud. They're quiet, internal, repeated. And this marriage? It survived the ring. But survival is not the same as victory. That part was still unfolding. Months passed, but the shadow of that night never fully disappeared. It lingered in subtle ways, in how Rasheeda paused a second longer before saying, "I love you," in how Kirk double-checked himself before speaking, in how both of them became hyper-aware of what attention actually meant. The scandal may have faded from headlines, but inside their home, it had reshaped the emotional architecture. Fans are shocked at how things appear calm on the surface, but those closest to the couple know calm doesn't always mean healed. Sometimes it just means controlled. And control, when it replaces honesty, can become its own silent problem. One evening during therapy, their counselor asked a simple but piercing question. If the ring had never been revealed publicly, would this marriage still be drifting? The room went quiet. Rasheeda didn't answer immediately. Kirk shifted in his seat. Because deep down, they both knew the truth, the confrontation didn't create the problem. It exposed it. Emotions ran high in that session as Kirk admitted something he hadn't said out loud before. "I didn't think she would actually leave. I thought she would be angry, hurt, but I didn't think she'd detach." That word hit differently. Detach. Because Rasheeda had changed after that night. She wasn't chasing reassurance. She wasn't begging for clarity. She had emotionally stepped back just enough to protect herself. And Kirk felt it. "You're different," he told her later that week. "I have to be," she replied calmly. "Because blind trust doesn't work for me anymore." The family was left divided when whispers began that Rasheeda was becoming colder, more strategic, less forgiving. But what they didn't understand was that strength often looks like distance when you're healing. Kirk began noticing how much he relied on her emotional steadiness before. He used to lean on her resilience without realizing the weight she carried. Now, she wasn't cushioning his discomfort. She was requiring growth, and growth, for Kirk, felt unfamiliar. One afternoon, an unexpected twist surfaced. Jasmine gave an interview. Not explosive, not messy, but reflective. She didn't mention Rasheeda directly. She didn't attack Kirk. She simply said, "Sometimes people use you as a mirror when they're trying to avoid looking at themselves." That line went viral. Fans are shocked again, dissecting every word. Was she implying Kirk never truly wanted her? Was she admitting she was a distraction? The speculation reignited debate. When Rasheeda saw the clip, she didn't react publicly. Privately, though, she watched Kirk's response carefully. He didn't defend himself aggressively. He didn't blame Jasmine. He simply said, "I did use distraction instead of self-reflection." That level of ownership was new. And while it didn't erase the past, it signaled something different. Still, trust rebuilds in layers, and sometimes old fears resurface unexpectedly. One night, while scrolling online, Rasheeda stumbled across a comment that read, "Men don't change. They just get better at hiding." It stuck with her, not because she believed it blindly, but because it echoed a fear she hadn't fully confronted. What if this was just adaptation? What if Kirk was performing growth to avoid consequences? Emotions ran high internally for her, even if she didn't show it outwardly. The next morning, she asked him directly, "Are you changing because you're scared of losing me, or because you see the flaw in yourself?" Kirk didn't answer quickly this time. He thought, really thought. "Both," he admitted. "I'm scared of losing you. But I'm more scared of staying the same." That answer didn't come with theatrics. It came with steadiness. And sometimes steadiness speaks louder than apology. Still, healing isn't linear. Another tension point emerged when Kirk was invited to a networking event alone. Months earlier, that wouldn't have meant anything. Now, it carried weight. Rasheeda didn't forbid him from going. She didn't monitor him obsessively. She simply said, "Your behavior when I'm not around matters more than when I am." That statement settled deeply. At the event, Kirk found himself hyper-aware of how easily conversations can shift tone. How validation can sneak in disguised as harmless charm. And for the first time, he recognized the pattern in real time. He didn't flirt. He didn't linger in ego-boosting exchanges. He left early, not because he was controlled, but because he understood his vulnerability. When he got home, he didn't wait to be asked. He told Rasheeda everything, not just who he spoke to, but how it made him feel. That level of transparency slowly began rebuilding something fragile. The family was left divided less frequently now. The noise quieted. Fans are shocked that there haven't been new scandals. Some even began calling their journey mature. But maturity isn't flashy. It's disciplined. And discipline in marriage is rarely celebrated because it doesn't trend. Months later, during a quiet dinner at home, Rasheeda admitted something she had kept guarded. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal, she said softly. It was realizing I had to choose myself first, even if that meant losing you. Kirk listened without interruption. And I think that's what scared me, she continued. Not that you had feelings elsewhere, but that I was finally prepared to walk away. That truth shifted something in him. Because for the first time, he saw her not as endlessly patient, but as powerful enough to leave. And that changed the dynamic completely. Love without consequence can become comfortable. But love with boundaries demands respect. The ring that once symbolized threat had become a lesson. Not about Jasmine, not about attention, but about accountability. Over time, the tone between them softened again, not back to naive trust, but toward earned partnership. They laughed more. They argued less reactively. They addressed tension earlier instead of letting it fester. Fans are shocked at how the narrative transformed from near collapse to cautious rebuilding. But behind that transformation were hundreds of small decisions. Moments where Kirk chose self-awareness over ego. Moments where Rasheeda chose vulnerability over silent resentment. And while the marriage may never return to its untouched version, it evolved. Because sometimes, confrontation doesn't destroy. It exposes. And exposure, while painful, can create clarity. The family was left divided for a season. The internet was loud for a season. Jasmine exited the story. The ring lost its sparkle. But what remained was a question neither of them could ignore. Will we repeat the pattern, or redefine it? And so far, redefining it has required more humility than pride. More honesty than image. More effort than assumption. The scandal may have started with a ring reveal. But the real story was never about jewelry. It was about whether two people, flawed and human, were willing to outgrow their worst habits instead of hiding behind them. And that part, the quiet, daily, unglamorous work, is still being written. And that part, the quiet, daily, unglamorous work, is still being written. What most people don't understand about a public scandal is that the loudest part only lasts a moment, but the consequences echo in private for much longer. Long after the blogs stop posting updates and the fans move on to the next headline, the two people at the center are left sitting across from each other with nothing but memory and choice. Rasheeda began noticing something subtle but important in Kirk's behavior. He no longer rushed to defend himself. In the past, whenever tension surfaced, he would interrupt, rationalize, deflect. Now, he listened, sometimes uncomfortably, sometimes silently, but he stayed present. That shift, small as it seemed, carried weight. Emotions ran high in quiet conversations that never made it to cameras, discussions about ego, about aging, about relevance, about what it means to feel admired versus what it means to feel valued. Kirk admitted one night that part of what drew him toward outside validation wasn't Jasmine specifically, but the feeling of being seen without expectation. With you, he told Rasheeda carefully, there's history, responsibility, pressure. With her, it felt light. Rasheeda didn't explode. She didn't cry. She simply nodded slowly and said, light isn't the same as meaningful. That sentence lingered between them for days. Because she was right. Light is easy. Meaningful is built. The family was left divided for a while about whether this level of honesty was productive or risky. Some believed revisiting the details only reopened wounds. Others believed avoiding them would guarantee repetition. Rasheeda chose confrontation over comfort. She asked the uncomfortable questions repeatedly until the answers stopped shifting. When you said you felt single, what did you mean? She pressed one evening. Kirk didn't hide behind vague language this time. I meant I felt emotionally unsupervised, he admitted. That phrasing surprised even him. Unsupervised? Rasheeda echoed, like no one was checking me. The honesty was raw. It revealed something deeper than flirtation. It revealed lack of internal discipline. And that realization forced Kirk to confront a truth he had avoided. Boundaries aren't external rules. They're internal standards. Fans are shocked months later when they see small glimpses of this new dynamic, how Kirk now publicly credits Rasheeda in interviews without prompting, how he avoids suggestive humor that once came naturally, how he openly acknowledges past mistakes without being cornered into it. The narrative begins to shift slowly from scandal to accountability. But accountability isn't a one-time declaration. It's repetition. One afternoon, while cleaning out a drawer, Rasheeda found an old receipt from the cafe where Kirk and Jasmine had met. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't recent, but the date printed on it reopened a flash of anger she thought she had processed. When Kirk came home, she held it up silently. He froze for a split second, not out of guilt but out of recognition. I forgot that was there, he said quietly. But you didn't forget going, she replied. Emotions ran high again, but differently this time. Less explosive, more reflective. I hate that I created memories you now have to unsee, Kirk admitted. That line softened something in her. Because for the first time, his regret wasn't about being exposed. It was about the imprint left behind. I don't want to monitor you forever, she said that night. I don't want to become suspicious by default. Then don't, he replied gently. Hold me accountable, but don't shrink yourself into a guard. That was growth, subtle, but present. Meanwhile, Jasmine remained out of the picture publicly, but occasionally her name resurfaced in comment sections, stirring dormant emotions. Rasheeda made a conscious decision not to let another woman's shadow dictate her peace. The real work wasn't in comparing. It was in rebuilding confidence without naivety. The family was left divided less often as time passed, because consistency began speaking louder than defense. Holidays came and went without incident. Business events were attended without tension. Small gestures, like Kirk checking in before late meetings or volunteering information without being asked, slowly rebuilt reliability. Fans are shocked when, nearly a year later, an interviewer brings up the ring incident directly. Instead of deflecting, Kirk responds calmly, "That situation exposed weaknesses in me, not flaws in my wife. I had to fix myself." That statement trends instantly, because accountability, when genuine, feels different. Rasheeda watches the clip quietly. She doesn't smile widely, she doesn't celebrate, but she feels something shift, not trust restored fully, but respect rebuilding. One evening, sitting on the porch, she finally says what had been lingering. "I don't think about her anymore." Kirk looks relieved but cautious. "What do you think about?" he asks. "Yes," she replies, "not as a perfect story, but as a real one, and that distinction matters. Perfection collapses under pressure. Reality adapts. Emotions still surface occasionally, a flash of doubt when Kirk seems distracted, a flicker of insecurity when praise comes from someone new, but now those feelings are addressed immediately instead of stored silently. That's the difference. Silence used to create distance. Now communication prevents it. The ring that once symbolized fracture has become almost symbolic in another way, a reminder of what happens when ego goes unchecked. The family was left divided for a chapter, but chapters end. Growth doesn't erase what happened. It reframes it, and while fans are shocked at how the marriage survived what looked like its breaking point, survival wasn't accidental. It was intentional. Kirk had to confront his appetite for validation. Rasheeda had to confront her tolerance for emotional neglect. Both had to decide whether comfort was worth more than evolution. One quiet night, long after the scandal faded from public memory, Kirk turns to her and says, "You didn't just save the marriage. You forced it to grow up." She looks at him carefully and responds, "No. I forced myself not to shrink, and that is the real shift." Because sometimes marriage doesn't end with a bang. Sometimes it transforms after a confrontation that forces both people to see themselves clearly. The scandal started with sparkle and accusation. It unfolded with tension and divided loyalties. It nearly cracked under ego and secrecy. But what remains isn't the ring. It's awareness. And awareness, if sustained, becomes protection. Whether this marriage lasts forever isn't determined by one dramatic reveal. It's determined by whether both people continue choosing maturity over impulse, honesty over ego, partnership over pride. The world may remember the ring reveal as a shocking moment, but inside this relationship, it will always be remembered as the wake-up call that either could have ended everything, or rebuilt it stronger than before. And so far, against expectation and public doubt, they chose to rebuild. And so far, against expectation and public doubt, they chose to rebuild. But rebuilding doesn't mean forgetting, and it certainly doesn't mean pretending the fracture never existed. It means living with the awareness that something once cracked and making sure it never fractures the same way again. Time has a strange way of softening headlines but sharpening lessons. The world eventually moved on from the spectacle of the ring reveal, yet inside their marriage, that night became a permanent reference point, not as a weapon, but as a warning. Rasheeda found herself stronger in ways she hadn't anticipated. She no longer feared confrontation. She no longer avoided difficult questions to keep the peace. Peace, she learned, isn't the absence of tension, it's the presence of honesty. Kirk, on the other hand, began recognizing patterns in himself long before they could manifest into problems. He noticed when admiration from outsiders lingered too long in his mind. He noticed when stress made him crave escape instead of communication. And most importantly, he began catching those impulses before they turned into action. That level of self-awareness didn't come naturally, it came from embarrassment, from near loss, from the realization that attention is intoxicating but fleeting. Fans are shocked at how transparent he has become about insecurity. During a panel discussion months later, he openly says, "I confused being admired with being valued. And that confusion almost cost me everything." The statement circulates widely, not because it's dramatic, but because it's vulnerable. Vulnerability, unlike spectacle, requires courage. The family was left divided for a season, but over time even the skeptics began to soften as consistency replaced chaos. Gatherings felt lighter. Conversations flowed without undercurrents of suspicion. Rasheeda still held her boundaries firmly, but they no longer felt reactive, they felt natural. One quiet evening, she admitted something that surprised even her. I don't regret the confrontation, she said. Kirk looked at her carefully. Even with all the fallout? He asked. She nodded. Because it forced truth, and truth is better than illusion. That sentence encapsulated everything. Illusion had been comfortable. Illusion allowed small emotional breaches to masquerade as harmless. Illusion let ego hide behind ambiguity. The ring shattered illusion, and while the shattering hurt, it also cleared the air. Emotions ran high in the months following, but gradually they transformed from anger into accountability. Kirk learned that apology without adjustment is manipulation. Rasheeda learned that strength without softness becomes isolation. Both adjusted, both recalibrated. Another subtle but powerful shift occurred in how they handled conflict. Before, disagreements sometimes escalated because underlying resentments lingered unspoken. Now, even minor discomfort was addressed early. If Kirk felt overlooked, he said it. If Rasheeda sensed distance, she named it. No more silent drifting. No more emotional outsourcing. Fans are shocked at how uneventful their lives appear now, and that, ironically, is the real victory. Because uneventful means stable. Stable means no hidden narratives waiting to explode. Jasmine's name rarely surfaces anymore, and when it does, it no longer triggers the same charge. She became part of a chapter, not the whole story. The ring that once symbolized potential destruction now exists only as a memory, a glittering lesson about boundaries, ego, and the fragility of trust. The family was left divided at first, but time, consistency, and humility mended most of the fractures. Relationships with extended relatives stabilized. Conversations that once revolved around speculation shifted back to normalcy. What remains most striking isn't that the marriage survived, it's how it matured. Survival would have meant returning to how things were. Maturity meant becoming something different, something more conscious. One night, reflecting on everything, Kirk asked softly, "Do you ever wish you had walked away?" Rasheeda didn't answer immediately. She considered the question honestly. "I wish you hadn't given me a reason to consider it," she replied. That answer wasn't cruel, it was real, and reality, in their marriage now, is prioritized over comfort. The scandal taught them something few couples publicly admit: betrayal doesn't always begin with physical lines. It begins with emotional convenience. It begins when validation from outside feels easier than vulnerability at home. And once they understood that, they began guarding against it fiercely. Kirk stopped chasing admiration. Rasheeda stopped absorbing responsibility for his insecurity. Both began operating as individuals, choosing partnership daily rather than relying on history to sustain them. Fans are shocked when, nearly 2 years after the ring reveal, they appear stronger than before, not because they erased what happened, but because they integrated the lesson. Interviews feel grounded. Public appearances feel aligned. There is no forced display of perfection, just a quiet steadiness that wasn't present before. The family was left divided for a chapter, but chapters close. Growth doesn't erase scars, it makes them less tender. The truth is, the ring reveal could have ended everything. It exposed weakness, ego, avoidance, and emotional recklessness. But it also exposed resilience, boundaries, and the willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. Sometimes marriage doesn't collapse under scandal, sometimes it evolves because of it. The key isn't avoiding confrontation, it's what you do after it. Kirk chose introspection over defensiveness. Rasheeda chose standards over silence. Together, they chose growth over pride. Whether that choice will sustain them forever remains unwritten, because every relationship requires continuous maintenance. But one thing is certain, the ring was never just about jewelry. It was about whether temptation would overpower commitment. And in the end, commitment demanded more than words. It demanded transformation. And that transformation, imperfect, ongoing, deliberate, became the real story behind the spectacle. So after everything, the shocking ring reveal, the explosive confrontation, the emotional confessions, the divided family, and the months of rebuilding, one question still lingers in the air. Was this a wake-up call that saved the marriage, or just a temporary patch over a deeper crack? Fans are shocked at how close it all came to collapsing. Emotions ran high, trust was shattered, and the entire world watched as secrets unraveled in real time. But in the end, it wasn't the ring that determined the future, it was the choices made after. Do you think Kirk truly changed? Or did he just learn how to move smarter? Do you believe Rasheeda was right to stay and fight for her marriage? Or should she have walked away the moment emotional boundaries were crossed? The family was left divided. The internet was divided, and now we want to hear from you. If you were in Rasheeda's position, what would you have done? Is emotional betrayal just as serious as physical cheating? And can a marriage really come back stronger after something like this? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because this conversation is far from over. Your opinion matters, and we're reading everything. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the drama, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next explosive update. Because in this world of love, loyalty, and shocking twists, the truth always comes out. And trust us, this story may not be finished yet.